Russians are in awe of what Russia is known for in the world now. The Ministry of Agriculture is banning sugar export. I wonder why. The Eurovision Song Contest opens, but Russia is not invited. Novosibirsk, a large Russian city, is a good example of how Russians live nowadays. Russia's richest thief tries to defend himself with medals. After record loss, Gazprom goes on a selling spree. Oil refineries are hit by the Ukrainian drones again. Russia is introducing witchcraft. Russian witches doing rituals to strengthen president, and it's for real, no joke. Russia celebrates the Victory Day with a twist this time. And the biggest and the most important news of the week, Russia has a very unusual new, old prime minister. He was just appointed. Does it have anything to do with the Chinese? Howdy, howdy, friends. My name is Konstantin. Welcome to Inside Russia, where usual Russia is explained by the unusual Russian. Welcome to Fridays. I give you crazy news update straight out of the mad circus that Russia has become. But first things first, there's no such absurdity that could not be realized in Russia these days. Please remember that. Before I start with the news, as usual, there's a little joke for you. Putin decides to make amends with America. Yeah. Invites the American President Joe Biden to visit Russia. Biden, like a good president, goes to Moscow and meets Putin. Putin shows him a Russian telephone. They discuss things, negotiate, and among other things, Putin shows him a Russian telephone of the latest design, latest technology. It can be used to talk to hell. Putin shows. He places a call and is connected to the devil. The conversation costs about 10 rubles, which is about 9 cents. Back in America, Biden asks his advisors of how come Russia has such advanced technology and the USA doesn't. And it turns out that in America, such the telephone was invented a long time ago. And Biden also makes a call and talks to hell again. But this time, the conversation costs $13,000. How so? Biden laments. It cost 9 cents when we called from the Kremlin and 13,000 here from Washington. And they explained to him, this call you just made was long distance international. And the one Putin made from the Kremlin, it was a local call tariff and personally discounted for Putin on top. And now to the news. I call them crazy news from Russia. But lately, they actually have outgrown the word crazy. You know what? Let's jump straight to the news number one, so you can see for yourself. And let me start with a video today. Check this out.
Производится товар в России, но пользуется популярностью и спросом во всем мире, в том числе и у нас.
Ивановские ситцы.
А во всем мире они тоже пользуются?
Я думаю.
А вы как думаете?
Шуйские ситцы.
Я думаю, что у нас ничего такого нет. Все из Китая завозится.
Нефть.
Это ж сырье.
Ну, а что мы еще производим по всему миру, я не знаю.
Курительные устройства типа Ашкиди, Джула.
Вы думаете, они в России произведены?
Я думаю, некоторые паленые туда.
А какой телефон у нас в России производится?
Да, наверное. Никакого нет.
Никакого.
Я не знаю российского телефона.
Мне кажется, ничего. Может, в автомобиле...
No one can name anything that Russia produces.
Ну вот я смотрю на Министерство обороны и ничего...
Well, the only one thing that comes to almost everyone's mind is Russian vodka.
Вас, по крайней мере, он раньше экспортировался в Кубу. Сейчас тоже точно не знаю уже.
Он. Вот это самый крутой товар. Все его любят, все им пользуются.
Vodka, Russian vodka. Well, not so fast. Let me tell you, friends, the best vodka is not Russian. I know. I had a fair share of vodka drinking in my 20s in Old Orchard Beach, Maine when I was young. No Russian vodka is sold anywhere in the world these days. Stolichная or Stoli is not distilled in Russia anymore. It's just a name, just a brand. And vodka sold in Russia, oh, give me a break. Cheap crap, distilled locally, okay? The best vodka sold in Russia is called Grey Goose, and it's French. Finlandia, it's Finnish, obviously. And Absolute, that comes from Sweden, okay? So Russia does produce nothing that is known in the world, let alone famous. And the regular Russian people know that. But you know what? Perhaps I made a mistake putting the video here into the crazy Russian news update on Friday, because it's really hardly news. Another news comes from Russia's Ministry of Agriculture. Russia has imposed a temporary ban on the export of cane or beetroot sugar and also a ban on chemically purified sucrose. The ban will be in effect until August 31st, 2024. According to the government, the decision to ban sugar export is aimed at maintaining the stability of domestic food market. The Ministry of Agriculture is concerned about sufficiency of sugar stock in Russia. Interesting, isn't it? Sufficiency of sugar stock. I'm not big expert of sugar or beetroot, but I know for sure that if government interferes with free market and bans exports, in other words, it bans selling to better paying customers, that's not a good sign. There's trouble. Well, it's one of the myriad troubles in Russia these days. I will keep on monitoring the situation with sugar and beetroots, and, something new comes up, I'll let you know. In the next news is about singing. Well, not me singing, no worries. 3 days ago, the European song contest called the Eurovision was opened, and it's happening right now. You know, the Eurovision was madly popular in Russia. So many Russians used to watch it. They were sincerely interested. It was like a singing competition. And if you look at Russian propaganda now, you literally will not hear one single word about Eurovision. As if the contest never existed. As if the contest died. And it has died for Russia, you know. On May 7th, the 68th Eurovision Song Contest opened. Russia was not invited. On May 10th, the 87th Ice Hockey World Championship opened. The Team Russia, always a regular, one of the best teams in the past, was not invited. Moreover, it's banned from international hockey. The European Football Championship opens on June 14th. Russia has not been invited, will not be invited. July 26th, the 33rd Summer Olympic Games will open, to which Russia is not invited. Moreover, it's banned. But Russians, you know what, don't fret. You aren't invited anywhere anymore, banned and kicked out, but you still make rockets to kill people instead. Must be really important to you. Another news is disturbing. I don't know. It comes from a Russian city of Novosibirsk. Check this news out. Novosibirsk is called the capital of Siberia. It's a modern city with 1,600,000 people. Size is a little smaller than Boston. Russia's third largest city, the home of Akademgorodok and many industrial enterprises, and many universities, and always wonderful things. Many ask me to show real Russia. Well, this is real Russia on this video. A typical day in Novosibirsk. Mud, broken roads, children playing, jumping through the puddles in front of a drug addicts who are looking for a drug drop-off. Typical spring day in Novosibirsk. The next news is from a Russian court. Remember I told you that Timur Ivanov, Russian Deputy Minister of Defense, Timur Ivanov was arrested for allegedly taking a bribe of 1 million rubles, around $11,000. That's been very big news in Russia. And the news about Ivanov's arrest, well, the news are keep coming in. His case is a huge deal, and it shows that the Russian elites have started a war with each other. Check out the video I made right here about that. Check it out. The bribe has miraculously grown from 1 million rubles to 1 billion rubles, roughly $11 million, not 11,000 anymore. Yes, the bribe has increased miraculously by 1,000 times. Timur Ivanov, attorney, has brought the evidence of his innocence into a courtroom. What's the evidence? Russia's marvelous generals' badges of honor and medals. Look at this picture right here. Oops, right here. Nice. Most of the medals were given to Timur Ivanov by the Dark Lord himself, you know, the Tsar, personally. Oh yeah, he knows Timur Ivanov quite well. And Ivanov must be the standard of honesty and decency in Russia for courage. I mean, look at these things, all the medals and badges of honor he owns. Look at that. Holy moly, my friends, that's quite something, isn't it? Oh, honorable man. You know, it took the attorney 4 large bags and 2 assistants to bring all the medals into the courtroom. But I'm sure that the money to hire the assistants is no problem from Ivanov whatsoever. After all, he is considered Russia's richest silovik, with a net worth of 70 billion US dollars. Well, I can't really guarantee you that it's true, but I personally believe that Timur Ivanov is in the possession of 70,000 million US dollars. That's right, $70 billion is 70,000 million dollars. That's insane. Imagine now, Timur Ivanov is in jail. He's waiting for a trial. He's waiting for investigation. He's talking to investigators. Imagine how Ivanov is feeling, sitting behind bars. The guy had 70,000 millions of dollars. Imagine things he could do with that money. Oh, imagination is running wild. And he must be imagining as well, sitting behind the bars, you know? And now his charge has worsened by a great deal, by 1,000 times actually. Worsened by 1,000 times. Before the bribe, I remind you, was $11,000, and now it's $11 million. And that shows that whoever is digging a grave for Timur Ivanov means business, very serious. Now, instead of enjoying the yachts, French mansions and other luxuries at the expenses of Russian taxpayers, of course, Ivanov understands that he'll either die soon or will fall out of the prison cell window or will get 25 years in prison. And to him it means life in prison. And his wife, by the way, she disappeared at the same time he was arrested. She was also taken into custody, but no one has seen her ever since. No one knows what happened to her. Wonder how is Ivanov feeling now? Well, I'm certainly taking the popcorn and enjoying the show. And this is not the last time I tell you the news of Timur Ivanov. The investigation is ongoing, keeps on happening. There will be many more updates. And if you want to keep up with the news about Timur Ivanov and other interesting breaking news from Russia, become a patron of Inside Russia, where every single day at Patreon I carefully select and post 9 news that I find important with my commentaries and analysis. It'll keep you informed on everything you wanted to know about Russia but afraid to ask. So become patron at patreon.com and get the access to the best news with the best analysis. The link is in the description down below. A real quick news from Gazprom. I recently made a live stream dedicated to Gazprom's current situation. I find Gazprom's situation is hugely important. It's an indicator of the current state of affairs in Russia. I named the live stream Gazprom Massive Loss Signals Bankruptcy. If you haven't watched it yet, please do so. The link is right here. It's pretty important. Well, the story of Gazprom record loss has received a continuation. 2 days ago, Gazprom started selling its large assets in Moscow and Moscow province. The listed items include numerous office buildings, luxury spa hotel. Yes, there's a luxury spa hotel belonging to Gazprom, and a parking lot. Interesting, isn't it? And there will be more news coming out of Gazprom. More losses, more scandals, more sales, and more employees flying out of the windows. The next news sheds light onto the current state of Russian healthcare. In the city of Ivanovo, a hospital patient, a local resident of Ivanovo, tried to get a visit to a surgeon, tried to book a visit to a surgeon at the first city hospital, but he failed. He was told that they were 4 surgeons in the entire hospital. 3 of them died, and the 4th surgeon is still alive, but he's currently at the war in the front lines somewhere. And the patient, well, the potential patient, he had an emergency, a wound at his foot, but the next appointment was only available in 4 weeks. It actually has made news. The source of this information, the hospital chief, Andrei Chikin. According to the chief, it's not possible to organize a full-fledged surgical appointments in 2 shifts due to the lack of surgeons. The hospital assured that the patient knows. The hospital told the patient that the search for personnel is ongoing. Well, I'm sure the patient started feeling, so much better, knowing that the search for the surgeon was on. So, now, why am I telling you this? Lack of surgeons in one hospital, well, that's a big deal, right? Well, that's one of the signs that things aren't well in Russian healthcare. I look for signs like that. I seek for signs like that. Ivanovo is not a village. It's a city of 350,000 people, and it severely is lacking surgeons. I'm sure other medical personnel is also not in the great supply. So where are the doctors? Well, the chief of the hospital was at least somewhat honest. He said 3 of the 4 surgeons died, and another one was at the war. Yes, that's right. All the doctors, they either died at the front lines or they have fled Russia. There's plenty of Russian doctors here in Tashkent, including surgeons, even brain surgeons. Remember, I made a video analyzing the sad state of Russian healthcare? Well, this Ivanova case is another proof that things are getting worse. The next 2 news come from Russian oil refining industry and Ukraine. there have been, how do I say, attacks? 2 attacks on oil refining plants. This is one of them. And you can see the flames are pretty darn bad. This is the first attack, and it happened in Bashkortostan, a place far away from the front lines, from Ukrainian border, over 1,000 kilometers. And the second one happened in Kaluga. It was actually a second attack in the last month on the same oil refinery. Before I show you that, I'd like to thank everyone for supporting the channel by buying me coffees at buymeacoffee.com. When you buy me a coffee, it's proof that you find my work valuable. And to me, it's huge feedback and inspiration. So again, thank you so very much. Well, and this is another attack. You see the fire? This is Kaluga. This is a large oil refinery, the largest in the region, in Kaluga province. They're filming from a distance, so in reality this fire is bigger than it looks like. It's huge. And this is a different angle. One of the refineries, Salavat Nefteorg Syntes, I know place quite well. I tried to sell our products there about 7 years ago, so I know the place. And the damage in both cases looks substantial, especially the second case. The reports say that at both oil refineries, catalytic cracking units were hit. And I'll remind you, this is the second time Kalushsky oil refinery and PZS hit, and it plays a very important role in the Russian fuel market. I think that comments aren't necessary here. The Ukrainians keep on hitting the weakest point in Russia's energy industry. The next step is the prices of fuel in Russia skyrocketing and then shortages at gas pumps. And I believe this will happen this summer. The next news, of course, is about, well, the biggest probably, so many big news this week that that's pretty big. Putin's inauguration. It happened on May 7th, a couple days ago. And I tried to cover it 3 times here at the Inside Russia channel. And YouTube did not let me do that twice. It would just kill off my streams. It shut me down when I was doing the reaction on the inauguration procedure live. Now I want you to compare. This is year 2018. And another one is a little later. What I'm showing you now is the comparison of 2 inaugurations. Same place, same time, same job. 6 years apart. And this is 2024. Do you find it different, perhaps? Plenty of people around, right? I wonder, why such a sour face? I think I have an explanation. Putin is looking like that because Russia is doing great. Victorious at the front lines, has withstood all international sanctions. Economy is doing fantastic. Yeah, everything's great. All in all, that's how one's face looks like when everything is going according to the plan. And the next news is V-Day celebration. Of course, May 9th is the Victory Day. You know, it's celebrated in Russia on May 9th. In other countries, it's celebrated on May 8th. Well, it doesn't really matter. Anyway, there's usually a big celebration with a center of celebration military parade on the Red Square in Moscow in front of the Kremlin. And then fireworks all over Russia at night. Well, I can't say that the military parade on the Victory Day has a long history in Russia. No. There was a victory parade in 1945, obviously, after Russia defeated Germany. Then there was one in 46, 47. The reason I made a pause is Russians say, well, the victory parade in Moscow in 45 happened after World War II was over. No, it wasn't. World War II was officially over in September of 1945 after Japan capitulated, signed, defeat the papers that it lost. So there was a victory parade in 1945, 1946, 1947. Then 20th anniversary was celebrated with a parade in 1965. Then another anniversary in 1985, then 1990, and that's it. Moreover, from 1948 to 1964, then 1990, the Victory Day was not even celebrated. It was not a holiday. People were trying to forget the war as their wounds were still too fresh. In Russia, the parade was held, the Victory Parade was held for the first time in 2008, and then it's held every single 9th of May since. And yesterday was not an exception. I have some news from the celebration of victory, Victory Day. I have quite a few news about that. Let me start with the usual. On May 9th, the remaining, the veterans who are still alive Russian veterans, they are honored. They're visited by local authorities, people from local governments, and they're given gifts to veterans receive gifts. And this year was not exception. Generous gifts were given to the veterans who are still alive. All kinds of goodies, good stuff, It's choco pie, brownie, choco pie. I don't know. I buy choco pies to Michael sometimes. He likes them. Each box costs about $1, something like that. The veterans were celebrated everywhere. In Russia's Far East and Primorsky Krai, the veterans were gifted with, boxes of tea, bags of sugar, and several chocolate bars. In Samara province, the gifts were a bottle of vodka, several cans of canned food, and also candies. And then in the Republic of Sakha, the veterans were gifted with a package of choco pies and tea bags. Very generous stuff. Choco pie cakes. Friends, I will not comment as I am ashamed. My generation is responsible. My generation, us, the 40-year-olds and 50-year-olds, we should be running Russia. We have let this happen. We saw Russia falling apart right in front of our eyes. Kept silent? I don't know. Didn't do much. It is our fault. Choco pies as presents. 50 to $1 a box. I wonder how the veterans are treated in other countries. Anyone can share in the comments. Perhaps you know. Let me know down below. Thank you. Now, we continue in our celebration, like a celebration description. There was a military parade. Well, there was a big one on the Red Square, but there were other ones, kind of a little odd ones, military parades, not on the Red Square, but around Red Square in different cities in Moscow. And this is one of them. Very odd. They don't look like Russians. They don't sing like Russians. They don't speak Russians. They don't speak Russian. They don't sing in Russian. They're what the hell? But they were part of the parade officially. Folks, it actually looked like a funeral in Louisiana. Perhaps what it was, only without coffin. Well, then, if we move on, Vladimir Putin traditionally makes speech to Russians. And then he made the traditional speech where he traditionally tried to scare everyone.
Глобального столкновения, но в то же время никому не позволим угрожать нам. Наши стратегические силы всегда в боевой готовности. На Западе хотели бы забыть уроки Второй мировой войны. А мы помним, что судьба... He says he doesn't threaten anyone and Russia doesn't threaten anyone, but then he turns around and threatens everyone. So if I was Russian, my head would be exploding right now. But anyway, Vladimir Putin made a traditional speech, and Dmitry Medvedev traditionally couldn't wait until the parade was over so he could eat something, perhaps have a shot or two, or three, or four. He was anxious for that celebration to be over. Well, at least this time he didn't fall asleep like he did in the past, on numerous occasions. The parade itself was, bleak. They traditionally tried to emphasize current might of Russian armed forces. But come on, everyone knows what the Russian army is now. It's the second strongest army in Ukraine, and no matter what kind of a parade you stage on the Red Square, everyone knows that. But something extremely usual happened at this parade after the parade. And I'm not being sarcastic, I add a fair share of sarcasm to many news, but this time I'm dead on serious, okay? After the parade is over, Vladimir Putin, as the commander-in-chief, walks over on the Red Square to personally greet and shake hands of those high-ranked commanders who participated in the parade. So yesterday was not so exceptional. Yesterday was not exception, but something exceptional happened yesterday. Check this out. I don't know, folks, have you noticed something very odd? So odd that when I saw that, my jaw dropped. I'll show it again. two high-ranked commanders did not salute Putin at the parade. The deputy head of Ryazan Airborne School, that's Russia's absolute best military academy, Colonel Malochnikov, and the head of the Academy of Ministry of Emergency Situations, Lieutenant General Panchenkov, they simply shook hands with Putin, although all other officers saluted. The military code of Russian Federation clearly requires a salute. It's a must. I find this absolutely incredible. All the previous years of the parades on the Red Square, and all they were televised. They're always televised. That didn't happen, not once. A public slap in the face in front of the armed forces, because that's going to be the talk of everyone and his brother in the armed forces. Moreover, public slap on the face in front of the entire country watching and in front of the entire world. Wow, just wow. I think, and this is solely my opinion, that this episode shows true attitude of Russian military men to Vladimir Putin. What do you think? Please let me know in the comments below. And, at the end of the day, we're moving on. At the end of the day, of course, there are always fireworks. And there were some. And they're usually pretty darn, expensive. Russian taxpayers' money just blowing up and burning. But let me show you some fireworks up close and personal. And that's how Russian people meant some fireworks. Up close and personal. That's not it. Boom. Up close and personal. They can't even conduct fireworks in the proper way these days. Well, so that was quite the celebration of Victory Day 2024. We will remember that. The next news is actually evil and satanic. Literally. Again, no sarcasm, no jokes. Literally, evil and satanic. Russian authorities speak so much and so often about how evil the West is. So evil, it's satanic, right? Perhaps they're looking at the wrong direction. Before I show you, I warn you, this did not happen last week. It happened on February 8th, 2019. But I discovered this video just last week. That's why I'm putting it here. You need to see this, folks. I want you to see this. The Empire of the Strongest Witches. That's, real organization in Russia, as it turns out to be. Moscow, Russia, February 2019. Check this out.
Мы уважаем нашего президента, и человек силы не может не уважать ту власть, которая присутствует. Величие России и короновав Россию, так истоком станет сила нашей ледостали, империи сильнейших верен благостных, что оживит и подымет всю землю. Поистину.
Власть – это некий такой сорбент, аспект такой того, чего достойны люди в целом, и это страна, да, и поэтому о ком-то негативно говорить, о каком-либо президенте ведущие люди не должны.
Нет нашим врагам путей дорог, прокляты враги, враги прокляты.
Прокляты враги, враги прокляты.
Клято, заклято и проклято.
Клято, заклято и проклято.
somehow I don't see Russian police running and arresting the witches, and they're real witches. It's not a stage, it's not a play or nothing like that. It's real deal. I don't see them arresting for insulting the feeling of believers. Yes, it's a serious crime in Russia, and there's a criminal article in Russian criminal code for that. I don't see angry politicians. I don't see Russian Orthodox Church standing up against the witches who aren't even hiding their faces. They actually advertising their ritual. What about all those traditional values that Russia is trying to save for the world? The values that Russia is fighting for in Ukraine? Or perhaps that, what we just saw, is what Russian world is about? What about Russian propaganda? Where is it? Well, it's so loud, about, how we are so religious and Christian and all of that. Where is it? I talk about the witches. What about the authorities? Anyone? The evil satanic West, they say. Wow. I personally pray every single day, and many of you pray along with me, for the Lord Jesus Christ to assemble his strongest angels with sharpest swords, led by Saint Michael, to get rid of the demons that have hijacked my country, Russia. Well, here's the faces of some of the demons. Again, that's not performance, that's not recreation, not a staged play or anything like that. That's a real ritual. I fact-checked. It made Russian news back in 2019, and even Euronews reported on that. To me, that's some scary stuff, And I feel, I feel lied to and betrayed, but you know what? That's a permanent feeling. That's how I've been feeling for the past 2+ years. I wonder how Russian people feel when they see that. They're sold all this скрепы and the values and Russian world. What about these witches? Praising Vladimir Putin and giving him strength and cursing his enemies. It's pretty, how do I say that? Christian stuff, right? Incredible. All right, before I move to the last news, I'd like to ask you a favor. Please let me know what you think of this news selection down below in the comments. Do you like them? Anything you liked more, and perhaps something you didn't like at all? Please let me know. So I appreciate that very much. I need your feedback. I need to know what kind of selection you like, and perhaps I need to improve for in the future. Thank you so much. And the last news of the day comes from Russian parliament and the president. In Russia, right after inauguration of new president, a new prime minister must be chosen. A new president nominates a candidate, new prime minister candidate, for voting in the parliament. Today, the new old president, Vladimir Putin, appointed the new old prime minister, Mikhail Mishustin. Well, he nominated, and the parliament, voted for the guy. Mikhail Mishustin. I think it'd be more correct to say that Vladimir Putin made his choice today. It's not nominated, but he made the choice, as the parliament didn't ask any questions about Mishustin and anonymously approved the candidate. Vladimir Putin also didn't wait for long and signed the final document, and just like that, Mikhail Mishustin was reappointed as Russia's prime minister. The new old prime minister. So you see, Russia has new old president, and now it has new old prime minister. So what's so suspicious about that, you ask? The prime minister did a good job and was reappointed, right? What do the Chinese have to do with that? Did you do a clickbait, Constantine? No? Well, I have doubts, my friends. To me, something is fishy. And why? Because Mikhail Mishustin is very good. In Russian vertical of power, he has an impeccable track record. He has good education, experience in doing business, real business. He was a businessman in the 90s. He's fairly young, 58 years old, which is a huge contrast with almost everyone else in Russian leadership today. Mishustin is a technocrat with no background in the security services. He is not a part of the Siloviki faction of intelligence veteran strongmen who are close to Putin. Before becoming prime minister, he headed the Federal Tax Service, where he is credited with more than doubling revenues during his 10 years, decade of being in charge. He did a fantastic job of rehauling Russian Federal Tax Service. He made it transparent, and I am a witness of that. Now, if only Russian taxes would go for something good, but not to Timur Ivanovs and the likes and the war financing, okay? So Mikhail Mishustin is very good at what he does. He has fairly good image. He's never been part of any scandal of any kind. And he's popular among Russian people. That makes him a threat. A threat to you know who. And the better he is, the bigger threat he is. You see, on top of everything else, Mikhail Mishustin is second in line of power, according to Russian constitution. If anything happens to Russian president, then prime minister steps in and becomes interim president until president election is held. Remember how Putin became the president in 1999? Boris Yeltsin resigned, and the young and inexperienced prime minister Putin became the interim president. And the rest is history. So having a strong, remarkable, popular, and effective prime minister is currently a threat to power. And we all remember what's that all about, right? That's all about power. So why would Vladimir Putin would reappoint a strong, remarkable, popular, and effective prime minister? That's right, he wouldn't. Yet, he just did. For quite some time, Mikhail Mishustin was not even considered a candidate, a favorite by anyone. And I mean, the candidate for prime minister, next prime minister during Putin's 5th term. I remember it was a popular pastime, according to all the media that I watched and I read, among the political experts of Russia to discuss who will be the next prime minister. I'd say starting August of last year until probably February of this year, they all had opinions. I've heard at least a dozen names, from the son of Russia's Grey Cardinal Patrushev to Putin's former bodyguard Dumin. I personally think that the former bodyguard Dumin will become the new Minister of Defense, so remember the name. So I've heard so many names as candidates for the Prime Minister, the next one. The names were plentiful and Mishustin was not among them. I heard a couple times, but he was far behind other names. And it made perfect sense. We all know Putin's attitude to people who can pose threats to him. Something interesting happened, though. And it didn't happen in Russia. Yeah, everything interesting happens in China. Mikhail Mishustin visited China. Twice in the last year. First time in March and second time in December of 2023. Both times Mikhail Mishustin was invited by the Chinese. Mishustin had personal meetings with China's number 1 and number 2, Xi Jinping and Li Qian. That was an extraordinary year for Russian Prime Minister. You see, Prime Ministers just don't travel like that, especially to China. Do you know where Mikhail Mishustin traveled to in his entire first term, besides former Soviet Union countries? You know, before he traveled to China. He traveled in all those years, previous years, as the prime minister, he traveled twice to Greece and the United Arab Emirates. Both times he attended celebrations. It was formal. And then China, twice. There he actually met with the leadership and discussed countries' cooperation and negotiated. That's not the job of the prime minister, that's the president's job. Moreover, Mishustin's Chinese visits went great. Check how both Russians and Chinese media covered the visits. They were fantastic. Now, why wouldn't it be very interesting to find out what they talked about behind closed doors, you know? Wouldn't it be? Did they negotiate? Perhaps made promises? Agreed on something? Interesting. I think that's gonna stay behind the closed doors. Unfortunately, we would not know. But it'd be incredibly interesting. Mishustin visits to China made him even more threat to Vladimir Putin. So let's say that he had very few chances of getting reappointed. And then, all of a sudden, this morning, without any hints, Vladimir Putin proposed Mikhail Mishustin as the new prime minister. Now, I'm not suggesting that Russia's new prime minister is influenced by China in any way. No, I'm not doing that. I don't have any proof of that. Yet I have questions and I have doubts. I am failing to get 4 when trying to put 2 and 2 together. Something doesn't make any sense. There's an unknown in this equation. Perhaps the Chinese could put a little bit of light on that. No? Folks, let me know in the comments, what do you think of this complicated issue, okay? Down there, let me know. Am I way off, or you think I'm right on something? Thank you so much. And the last thing, but not too many people talk about it. Anyway, Russian Constitution doesn't explicitly specify who would lead Russia if there's no president and if there's no prime minister at the same time. However, the law on the government of the Russian Federation states that in this case, when both are gone, let's say they both pass away or something like that, the power passes to one of the deputy prime ministers. Not specified who. It's just so you know. To me, that's very interesting. And that's it for the news update today. If you want to see how we Russians live after leaving Russia for good, check out another video that I made documenting our life in Uzbekistan right there.